So the first thing I want to start with is actually the ballot language that we'd be looking to use. This has been approved, and you will see this on the ballot. And a couple of the key things there is that we're asking for a 55-cent tax increase, and that would be used for capital projects, including construction of a new high school. And currently the tax rate is 4.2467. That's what the language would look like, and you would see that on the ballot when you go vote. So let's talk about how Orchard Farm compares to the other school districts. As you can see, St. Charles is the highest in the county at 529. Fort Zumwalt is at 485. Wentzville is at 476. Francis Howell's at 465. And we are currently at 442. And since I've been here, we have been the lowest, we've had the lowest tax rate in the county. And we've been very fortunate to enjoy that as we've continued to expand and increase programming and opportunities for kids. So we do know that Wentzville is seeking a 49-cent increase this April, the same as we are, and that's consistent with their growth on their level, and then we are seeking a 55-cent increase. So if they're successful, and we would be successful, then they would be second in the county and we would be in the middle at third, is how that would kind of round out. So the last time Orchard Farm approved a tax increase was 16 years ago. So if you have a senior this year, they were 2 years old when the last time that taxes were increased in the Orchard Farm School District. And that doesn't happen by chance. The board is very fiscally minded, and we've made some very good decisions. We've been very conservative, but we always keep an eye on the future and keep an eye on what's best for our students. So what does that look like in Orchard Farm School District? Well, the average home, according to Scott Shipman, the county assessor, is $208,000 in our entire school district. So a 55-cent increase would equal about $18 per month across the board if you had an average priced home in Orchard Farm School District. So what we get a lot is like, well, how did you come up with 55 cents? Like, that seems like a weird number, or how did you get to that? So whatever we do here, we're going to have to pay that money back over time. Typically in the school business, it's a 20-year payback, just like a mortgage would be. So in very simple terms, each penny that we would raise the levy would allow us to pay back $1 million over that 20-year period of time. So in the simplest form. So if you wanted $60 million, we'd do a 60-cent increase. If you wanted $40 million, we would do a 40-cent increase. That's how the numbers work right now based on our formula and our tax levy and our assessed valuation. So how did we figure that a high school would cost $55 million? Well, we're pretty familiar with the other work that's going on in the region, and our architect is very connected. So we're able to know what those buildings are bidding at per square foot. And so through just a simple calculation, what we currently have as square footage in our high school with some room for expansion, and apply that cost per square foot, then that would tell us that, hey, it's going to be between $50 and $55 million. Now, there's always a chance with things that are very volatile right now in the market. You know, we would have to be very conservative as we design that and probably build in some alternates, but that would be our plan. So then other people ask, well, how do you know that you needed a high school? Well, the last time when we worked through our engagement with the community, we heard very loudly and very clearly that people wanted improved access in the fine arts department, and also athletic department, and then they wanted to retain small class sizes. So in order to do that, we would have to build something. So we were fortunate to be able to look at replicating our current facilities. Some people think we're going to put a pool in, and that's not the case. It would be a replication of what we have, the same programming, just additional space for growth as we go through that build out. So why not a bond issue? People say, golly, we've had great success with the last 2 bond issues. They overwhelmingly passed, and that's absolutely true. But those were no tax bond issues, okay? So unfortunately, we are bound by a constitutional amendment that restricts us to not bond more than 15% of our total assessed valuation. Okay, so we cannot bond $55 million as a bond issue. And then people would say, well, why would that be so critical? And we're going to talk a little bit more about the difference between that as we go. So you probably saw this article recently in the Post. If not, Jim has linked it on our website, and we're going to continue to update information as we go and do these forums. But it really highlighted the growth that we're having in the county. So as we were preparing to talk about this, the subject, we wanted to kind of set the stage. So we went back and looked, started with April of 2016, and just orientate yourself here for a second. Boxertown Road, Highway B, Newtown Boulevard. So in 2016, you can see that the streets were poured here at Charlestown Crossing. We had the footprint started on the Early Learning Center. So that would be 4 years ago from today. That was in progress. So if you fast forward to August of 2017, you can see that there's quite a bit of development that's occurring here in Charlestown Crossing. If you're familiar with Newtown, they have increased area here and they built the beach district. So that was in 2017, August. So fast forward to October of 2018. Charlestown Crossing is really filling up very quickly. They have the streets of the first portion of the streets poured in Charlestown Place. They've expanded the beach district some more, and then they're also filling in the front area there of Newtown. And I recall driving home, it was, I believe it was Christmas Eve at 18. McBride was just putting up the displays. They were finishing up the brickwork that afternoon. So only since 2018. So if you've driven by there recently, you'll see that there's been a tremendous growth there. Fast forward to August of 2019, you can see that Charlestown Crossing continues to grow. Streets are here. And then this winter, they have approved the next phase of Charlestown. That'll be about 445 homes, and they're going to start grading on that site this spring. And then the Whitaker Group then secured this additional property to continue expansion there of Newtown. So if you fast forward to today, March of 2020, all the things that we mentioned here, the high school property that has been purchased, and then also the City Parks Board has bought 100 acres that's adjacent to the school property for development. They're excited about working collaboratively with the school on that. So more homes and more students. People say, as fast as you're growing, I am sure that you have plenty of money to build whatever you want. And that's a little bit of a misconception. So if you have an average value home in the district, $208,000, your tax payment to the school would be $1,749. That does not include the other political entities that you're paying, if it's ambulance, fire, library, all those other things are added on. But what the school would receive is $1,749. If we're successful with this tax increase, that would go to $1,966. That would not affect your other taxes that you pay to other entities. That's a standalone decision, and they would have to put that in front of you for approval. So more homes, more students. So we talk a lot about what we spend per child to educate our kids. And in Orchard Farm, it's $13,552 last year on an average student cost. And that's an all-in figure that includes all of our debt service, all of our transportation costs, salaries, anything that we spent that's going to go into educating a child. That's how you get the number. So if you were moving in with 0 students, the school would get that $1,749, and we would have no expenditures. That's great. That would work all day long. It's a great business model. But if you move in with 1 student, it's actually a deficit to the district of $8,176 last year based on those current numbers. Say, well, that doesn't equal $13,000. Well, that's the difference between our state funding, our federal funding, and everything that we collect that goes into our pot of money. So out of that is $8,176 deficit. So if you have 2 kids, obviously that grows $18,000. 3 kids, $28,000. And if you've got a bumper crop, it's $37,900. And the families, a lot of the families that are moving in, they have multiple kids. So that business model doesn't generate a lot of money for the school. We're fortunate that we have industry here and we are collecting taxes from all those businesses. that we do have here. So the enrollment growth. Currently, our K-5 enrollment is outpacing our demographer that was hired actually before we did Prop R, and we went through that work. And they estimated that at this point, with our enrollment today, it would be 2023 or 2024 before we hit that number. So we are exceeding their estimate. In grades 6 through 8, currently, if you have students there and know someone that does, it's the lowest that it's going to be for the next 4 years, just based on numbers in the classes below them. So if no growth would occur, they're going to have larger numbers as they go forward, just as those kids grow, move through the grades. Grades 9 through 12, kind of the same thing. We have 3 of the smallest classes in the district are currently at the high school right now. So as those kids move through, that number will go up. So what classroom space do we have available? And these have been updated recently just based on what we know we're going to have to add for next year. Here in Discovery, we had a kindergarten bubble that came in after the first of the year. So if you're a parent here, and you might have heard about that, so we're trying to accommodate that. So luckily, we're going to be able to have a space to add a teacher, for that classroom next year. So we are estimating that we'll have 1 open space between the 2 elementaries after we increase our staff next year between the 2 elementaries. And we do not have any spaces available at the middle school because next year we're adding 1 person, a math person, to one of our teams because of the growth. So that's going to just continue that trend. And the high school, we do not have any unused spaces there either. So there was a lot of discussion as we went through this, what we could do, what we couldn't do. But it came up to that if we build 1 school, a high school would make the most sense because it would have the greatest impact on all grade levels, K through 12. Obviously, if we're designing a new high school, we would include enough space for growth, what we expect or what we predict as we move forward. So we would have room to grow in the new high school. And then by moving out of the old high school, that would give us 28 classrooms that we would use for K through 8 expansion as we continue to grow. So why would the new high school go on the corner there of B and 94? Well, there's some really good reasons. The first was we tried to expand the main campus. We approached both of the landowners with a couple board members and myself, had meetings back and forth, and neither group would agree to sell property to the school. So being landlocked, that really limited our ability to go somewhere else. So when we were looking at opportunities, we said that, we would like to be close to utilities. If we can't use our water plant and our lagoon on the main campus, we want to be as close as we can to utilities. And that location fit that bill. And then, we actually have 98 acres there, so that would allow us room for expansion. So if it's a high school, if it's whatever else the district needs in the next 20 years. Also, it's a bonus that we're going to be next to the city park, which would be a lot of opportunities for us to have shared space and green space and whatnot. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've done over the past 8 years. So the first thing we talk about is Prop F. So in Prop F, we took on some pretty big things. We added 8 rooms to Discovery Elementary, 5 rooms to the middle school, 2 rooms to the high school, built the Early Learning Center, and then added the Fitness Center at the high school. So we added 16 rooms total that were usable space during Prop F in 14. So those went into service in 16. So in 4 years, we will have filled up 15 additional rooms. So what else have we done? Well, during that time, we also did a lot of other capital projects that were outside of any kind of a bond issue or any kind of a tax increase. So some of those things are we continue to improve our bus fleet, annual roof repairs. We actually purchased the land for the Early Learning Center outside of the bond issue. We invested about $2.6 million into the water treatment facility on the main campus, and then we improved the lagoon on the main campus. So we invested in infrastructure and increased space over that period of time. And that was a total of about $7.5 million, and that was non-bond issue projects. So then we got to Prop R 2018, and most of you are probably familiar with those things. We added on to the Early Learning Center. It was full. We're doing enrollment now, and numbers are looking really strong for next year. Did new playgrounds, one at each elementary, ADA accessible. We did an addition for a middle school cafeteria and office space at the middle school. Added about $6 million worth of new HVAC work. We spent quite a bit on our Safe Defend system that we have in every space. We increased our entry vestibules, access, safety to make sure that we were in a better position. So have done all that. We feel very good about that, and we like the things that we've been able to accomplish. But if the growth does continue, we will definitely be out of space sooner rather than later. Now, there can be other options, but this would solve our space issue. If we grow at this current rate, it would be fair to say that you'd be looking at 8 to 10 years of space, we would hope. But we don't control the rate of growth. So having said those things, that's kind of the summary of the presentation. Just want to put as much information in people's hands. And then if you are like, well, I have questions, I don't really want to do it right now, we'd love for you to submit them because we would be answering them on our FAQ page. So we want to keep those updated and try to get a lot of questions are on there already, but we want to continue to grow that. We just want to make sure people have the informed, they can make an informed decision. And we know that not everyone is a supporter. But I want to make sure that we are putting this out there so people can then make an informed decision.